Hi everyone, this is our presentation on secondary succession of the forest in Point Pleasant Park before and after Hurricane Juan by Ali, Teresa, and Naya. Point Pleasant Park is located in Halifax, Nova Scotia. The site was traditionally a Mi'kmaq gathering place known as Amtukati that later served as a defensive site to guard the entrance to the harbor. It is now known as a municipal park for recreation purposes. Hurricane Juan was a Category 2 hurricane that hit Halifax on September 29, 2003. Our research was collected between 2004 and 2023 to examine secondary succession, which is a gradual change in the ecological community after a disturbance that does not cover, remove, or create new substrate. This was done by examining changes in the forest community in 6 sites which were in the areas of the park that were highly impacted. Our research focuses on community metrics such as total density, dominant species, and species richness. The study highlights the scientific and cultural importance of Point Pleasant Park and explores the relationship of these metrics 20 years after Hurricane Juan. These are the relevant hypotheses for each statistical test throughout the study.
Methods. In this study, each site was divided into 400-meter squared patches to measure the density of individual species. The collection of each individual's average diameter at breast height was taken in centimeters using a tape measure. These measurements of density allowed us to evaluate species richness and many more community metrics listed on this slide. These metrics are valuable to the analysis of our data and understanding of the Point Pleasant Park community. The process of collecting the data would have required the identification of species using the James Donnelly's text as mentioned here. With the above metrics collected, a regression analysis was conducted to determine the significance and fit of our regression models to the data. Most variables were found to be significant and will be crucial to the discussion of our results. On this slide, there is a picture of Point Pleasant Park in which all 6 study sites are marked. Each study site was chosen due to the high level of disturbance recorded after Hurricane Juan in 2003. Overall, the data was consistently recorded every year since 2004, excepting the years 2005, 2007, 2016, and 2022. These are the statistical results we will be referencing based on the regression analysis conducted.
We have performed a regression analysis implicating the total tree density over the years between 2004 and 2023. The positive slope in the rejection equation indicates this consistent upward trajectory, providing insights into the change in abundance of species over the period of time. Our null hypothesis indicates that there is no significant change in the total density of Point Pleasant parks in the years after the hurricane. And our alternative hypothesis indicates that there is a significant change in the total density of Point Pleasant Park after Hurricane Juan. Based on the total density of the forest community in Point Pleasant Park, we can observe that it has experienced an increase in total density from 2004 to 2023, influenced by ecological factors and post-disturbance recovery. As the forest moves towards its climax community, predictions can be made based on the observed trend. The positive slope in the regression line indicates an increasing trend in the total density, which provides evidence against the null hypothesis. The observed changes in total density are statistically significant, supporting the alternative hypothesis that there is indeed a substantial change in the forest community's total density following Hurricane Juan. Therefore, based on the data analysis, we reject the null hypothesis and accept the alternative hypothesis, implying that there is a significant and meaningful change in the total density of Point Pleasant Park's forest community in the post years. Predictions suggest ongoing succession, potentially leading to an improved biodiversity and ecological balance. This highlights the dynamic nature of the ecosystem, emphasizing the need for ongoing research to understand the evolving dynamics of Point Pleasant Park's forest community.
The 2 dominant species found at Point Pleasant Park through 2004 to 2023 were the red spruce and the red maple. In Figure 2, it is observed that there is a positive slope and a gradual increase in the red spruce population throughout the years, although there is a low R-squared value demonstrating that this model is not necessarily the best fit for the data presented. In Figure 3, a positive slope is also observed, and a more dramatic increase in population density of the red maple is noticeable in comparison to the red spruce density, although a similarly low R-squared value determines a more accurate model for the analysis of the data could have been possible. Based on the results from the regression analysis table provided earlier, we can reject both null hypotheses for the dominant species. The results we have observed are supported by this rejection, and we have seen a change in dominant species through 2004 to 2023 in Point Pleasant Park. As time has allowed, these two species absorbed resources with a greater productivity than other species. As red maple is a mid-successional species according to the government of Nova Scotia, it is understandable that it has shown a dominance among other species in the Point Pleasant Park forest. But the dominance of the red spruce as late successional species, as described by Jamie Simpson, is surprising and demonstrates the resilience of this species. Based on the late succession status of the red spruce, the species will continue to be a dominant species as the forest reaches its climax community, as typical of Acadian climax forests according to the government of Nova Scotia. Red maple may still remain a very popular species in the forest, but it can be predicted that it will not remain a dominant species as the rest of the forest and late successional species mature.
A regression analysis was performed to determine whether there is a change in species richness between 2004 and 2023. It was found that there is a strong relationship between species richness and each year recorded after Hurricane Juan hit Point Pleasant Park in Halifax, Nova Scotia. We reject the null in favor of the alternative hypothesis because there was a significant change in species richness. Species richness is the number of different species in a region, which was measured in 6 different sites during 2004 and 2023. Species richness has increased over time at a continuous rate, supporting the secondary succession theory. After a large disturbance like Hurricane Juan, which destroyed around 70% of the canopy in the park, it was still capable of regenerating itself. The park was able to do so because after the hurricane, the soil and nutrients were still intact, allowing for regeneration. Pioneer species are fast-growing and resilient, which help with stabilization of soil and creating better conditions for other species to grow in the area. As species richness in Point Pleasant Park moves towards the climax community, we can predict that the rate of succession will continue to increase, further enriching the park's diversity of the ecosystem. As it reaches climax community, species richness will slow and stabilize at equilibrium as it develops into a mature forest, or until the next disturbance restarts the succession process.
Based on the observed trends in total density, species richness, dominant species, and considering succession theory, our prediction suggests that Point Pleasant Park's forest is currently in the mid-succession stage. The positive slopes in the regression lines indicate a gradual increase in total density over time, reflecting characteristics associated with a maturing ecosystem. Being a park that's urban introduces distinctive dynamics that impact succession. 2 concrete examples include invasive species introduction. Urbanization might lead to the introduction of non-native species, influencing the natural successional trajectory. This aligns with our results, emphasizing the importance of vigilant management to control and mitigate the influence of invasive species. Fragmentation in connectivity is the other one, as urbanization can also result in fragmented habitats affecting connectivity. Our findings support the need for management plans that create bigger green spaces within Point Pleasant Park, enhancing connectivity and promoting a more cohesive forest community. Considering traditional knowledge and teachings from the Mi'kmaq Nation can also provide a holistic approach to understanding and assisting in Point Pleasant Park's recovery. 2IT principle is one of the major teachings that we can learn from, as it is based on the dual usage of both Indigenous and Western points of view in order to combine and use them for the benefits of all. Integrating Indigenous wisdom with scientific perspectives can guide sustainable management practices, emphasizing the interconnectedness of nature and culture. Collaborating with First Nations communities offers valuable insights, promoting a more nuanced and inclusive approach to the recovery of Point Pleasant Park's Acadian forest.
Following Hurricane Juan, the damages to Point Pleasant Park were very significant. However, the forest was able to recover and eventually became more resistant to future disturbances. During mid-succession, the forest has become more diverse from the regeneration of vegetation, succession of plant species, and higher genetic diversity, which is more adaptable to changing climates and disturbances. I believe there are interventions to help Point Pleasant Park become more resilient to future disturbances. For example, assessing the park's biodiversity regularly to focus on sensitive species, which are known to respond negatively to disturbances. Other ways are to increase the diversity of tree species, enhance habitat connectivity to support the movement of species and promote genetic diversity. It is also important to engage in conservation efforts and to spread awareness on importance of forest resilience. By implementing these interventions to support Point Pleasant Park and adopting a holistic approach, it will reinforce the park's resilience to future ecological disturbances.
After Hurricane Juan at Point Pleasant Park, the landscape's aftermath came numerous uprooted trees, which likely disrupted soil structure and nutrient levels. Our strategy involves a dual approach: natural recovery through microbial decomposition and pioneer plant growth, and human intervention through strategic planting of native species and organic enrichment via mulching and composting. These actions aim not only to aid the recovery, but also to enhance the overall soil quality. Embracing a sustainable land management practice and fostering community-led reforestation initiatives that come from the community's desire to aid in Point Pleasant Park's ecological balance.
Uptakes in hurricane severity has been named as one of the many consequences of climate change in recent years. According to a paper by Greg Holland and Cindy L. Briere, there has been an increase by approximately 25 to 30% per degree Celsius of global warming in Category 4 and 5 hurricanes. Due to this direct interference by humanity, I think that we naturally have a responsibility to support forest restoration, limiting ourselves within the boundaries of respect for other ecosystems around the forest and with responsible, non-invasive techniques with guidance from the previous state of the forests. To better understand the traditional growth and impact of the forest, it would also be valuable to consult indigenous communities on the land.
We would like to thank the previous biology students for data collection and preparation. We would also like to express our gratitude to Dr. Allison Schmidt and Nev Murley for their support and guidance. We would like to acknowledge that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Working on this land is a privilege, and we are grateful for the opportunity. And here are references. Thank you.